I wake up every night around 3 o'clock in the morning. And there was a great poet, his name was Rumi, many, many years ago. He said, the morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. And many of the books that I've written when I've been awakened, and there's something. What is it? What is it that awakens me? It's like I can almost tell you the exact time. It's like, because in a film I did years ago called The Shift, they show a clock, it's 3:13 a.m., almost to the second, every single night. There's something, is that angels? Is that divine source? Is that someone saying, this is your purpose, this is the time, there's no distractions?
The thing we most want to say is that we're with you saying that all the time. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting to us is that that's the time that you decide to listen.
Right. But there's nobody else around to distract me.
And that's the important conversation to have. So what is it about that time? What is it that's happening there that makes you more resonant, that makes you more receptive? And it is that the momentum of your thought has stopped. So there is no contradictory vibration going on within you. So you're more likely to hear. The way we've been defining that most recently is that when you wake up in the morning, you have the potential of being in that highest frequency, because while you slumber, your point of attraction, the momentum of your point of attraction stops. So when you first wake up, before you begin thinking thoughts of what went wrong yesterday or what you have to do today, you're in your greatest potential of that pure positive energy. So if you can focus there and allow a little momentum to get going, what happens is it isn't something that just happens, it's something that you focus yourself into being. But when you focus yourself into that, you tune in, is the best way of describing it, you tune in to that source energy consciousness who has always been aware of everything you're doing, but there's a big difference when you tune into it and you consciously are aware of it. In other words, source is there for everyone all the time. We don't need to talk you into that. We're always there. But when you know it, when you're not doing that thing you do that is preventing you from knowing that, that's when you have those wonderful moments. And you can do that all the time. So sometimes you have beliefs that do not serve you. But when you first awaken, those beliefs are quiet enough that you can find a fresh one that comes from source, that is about who you really are and what you really know.
Is the reverse of that if you awaken and you have a very positive thought? That is, I'm going to heal myself.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. Once you get that momentum going, if we were standing in your physical shoes, if the thought felt good, we'd think it. We'd think more about it. We'd talk about it. We'd write it down. We would discuss it with others. We would deliberately encourage that momentum. But if it's an easy thought, if it feels uncomfortable, then we would do our best to generalize it. The more specific you become in a thought, the more momentum. The more general you become in a thought, the slower the momentum.
Can you have a thought, like I talk a lot about the I am discourses. I am as the name of source, another name for source. If you are feeling weak, but you have a thought saying, I am strong, I mean, that's one of the lines from the book of Joel, let the weak man say, I am strong. If you continuously say, I am strong, or I am well, or I am healed, or I am wealthy, or I am positive, or I'm loving.
It makes sense. It makes sense, but there is a effort factor, a backfiring factor that sometimes every subject is really two subjects, wanted and absence of it. So if you are feeling not strong, and you say, I am strong, which end of the stick are you activating? And what we've noticed is the more effort you are applying, usually you're trying to overcome what you've really got going on vibrationally with words. And instead of it working the way you want it to, it works in reverse, because when you're trying really hard, it's an indicator that you're trying to use your words and your actions and your affirmations to compensate for vibration that you didn't get started off on the right foot. We think affirmations are wonderful, but we would make sure that we are feeling really good when we affirm. Because the universe doesn't hear what you say, the universe hears what you mean.
I wrote a book years ago called Inspiration, using the two words inspire, inspirado, inspire, in spirit. And there was a great teacher on this planet a couple of thousand years ago named Patanjali, and he said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, that all of your thoughts break their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world.
Perfect.
And then he said, dormant forces, when you're inspired, dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you've ever dreamt yourself to be. It's almost as if you discover yourself to be God or Source or the Tao or Divine Mind or whatever name we place on this source energy that you speak of and speak to us from.
My dear, wonderful friends, tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation. How to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days. Not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute, and it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation. For you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Wayne, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture. And when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But then this is crucial. Your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced, for feeling is the secret. And your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it. Because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command if you wish to see your world transform. Consider this. Every outer conversation you have is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle. Engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity. But remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with the feeling of knowing that they are already true. Throughout your day, your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction. When challenges arise, and they will arise, your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of health. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days, he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation, not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously. But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies in maintaining your new conversation, regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No, his inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws and his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation. During these 3 days, you must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality, not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days, and they will arise. When a doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, immediately revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying inwardly, "This isn't working," immediately revise it too. "Everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now." This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude. Not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth. Consciousness. If you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health. Consciousness. If you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear. You must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation. And like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. For you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, "I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me." If you desire a promotion, your inner conversation might be, "I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more." But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. Fulfilling is the secret, and your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be specific. Vague inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be continuous, not in the sense of constant chatter, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, It must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room, let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be aligned with feeling rich with the emotion of your desired state. For it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation. Not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but Wayne, what if my desired state seems impossible? Let me remind you, nothing is impossible. To your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God, all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled, regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind. Let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. You must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates a belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak. Think as that person would think. Feel as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness. When you catch yourself speaking from your old state, immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is not, what was, or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct. If it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true, even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity. For your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates a relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship with yourself. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is, your consciousness in action creating your world. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are, the operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your uniqueness. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the Word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days as though your life depends upon it, because it does. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality. Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled, and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about?
You were never born to simply survive. You were not sent here as a mistake to be corrected or a problem to be solved. You arrived in this world as a spark of the infinite, clothed in flesh, yet never truly separate from the source that breathed you into being. Long before the noise of the world told you who to be, what to fear, and what you lacked, there was only silence. And in that silence there was knowing. And in that knowing there was divinity. You are not your resume, you are not your past, you are not your roles, your relationships, or even your reputation. Strip it all away, peel back the layers of fear, the costumes of ego, the armor of self-doubt, and what remains is something eternal, something vast, something holy. You. To remember your divine origin is to awaken from the trance of separateness. The world has tried to convince you that you are just a body, just a mind, just a story unfolding on a linear timeline. But look deeper. Feel into it. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. You are not a wave trying to become the ocean. You are the ocean pretending to be a wave for a little while. And when you know that, truly know it, you stop grasping for wholeness and things that can never make you whole. The trees do not struggle to be tall. The sun does not compete to shine. The stars do not hustle to earn their glow. They simply are. And so must you remember what it means to be. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember yourself. And when you remember, you return to peace, to grace, to presence. That is the path of the divine. Every fear, every wound, every moment of suffering is not a punishment. It is a call to wake up, a signal that you have wandered from your truth and bought into the illusion that you are separate from love itself. But you are not. You never were. The pain you feel is not proof that you are broken. It is evidence that your soul is still alive beneath the noise, yearning to come home. You are a divine creation. not later, not once you've healed, not once you've succeeded, not once you've found someone to love you back. Now, in this breath, in this moment, with all your cracks and questions and unfinished prayers, you are already holy, not because of anything you've done, but because of who you are. And who you are is the beloved of the infinite. You did not come into this life to accumulate identities like trophies. You are not here to prove your worth through exhaustion or to earn love through sacrifice. You are here to shine, not as someone better than others, but as someone finally remembering there was never anything wrong with you to begin with. You were not born flawed, you were born forgotten. Forgotten of your divine essence, because the human story has a way of wrapping our wings so tightly we forget we were ever meant to fly. But hear this deeply. You are not your trauma. You are not your history. You are not the names you were called or the failures you've carried like shackles. You are a soul wrapped in skin, light disguised as a person. And no amount of pain, judgment, or rejection can remove that light from you, only veil it. And even behind that veil, the light still shines. You have been told that you must find yourself, but I say, how can you find what was never lost? You are not something to locate, you are something to remember. Remembering is not about going back. It's about waking up to what has always been present. It is the act of saying, I am not my thoughts, I am not this fear, I am not this story I've been looping for years. I am something deeper, something eternal, something divine. When the ego leads, you feel fragmented. You feel like you are never enough because the ego feeds on deficiency. It whispers, you'll be worthy when, and it moves the finish line every time you get close. But your soul does not speak in conditions. Your soul says, you already are. Not someday, not when your life looks different, not when your past is rewritten, now. Always now. The soul knows no future or past, it only knows presence, and in presence, there is peace. The war you've been fighting has never been with the world, it's been with your forgetting. You're forgetting of your sacredness. You're forgetting that you are not a mistake in progress, you are a miracle unfolding. And each breath is a return. Do you know what it feels like to be whole? It feels like surrender. It feels like letting go of the heavy need to be more, to be fixed, to be validated. It feels like standing in the center of your being and declaring this right here is enough. And in that moment, you are free. Not because anything has changed around you, but because something has changed within you. The veil has lifted, if only for a moment, and you remember, oh yes, I am divine. Not because of what you do, but because of what you are. And this isn't poetry. This is physics of the spirit. You are energy, you are vibration, you are the frequency of the infinite expressing itself as a human being. What you believe about yourself echoes through the field of your life. And so if you believe you are separate, you will see walls. If you believe you are broken, you will find wounds. If you believe you are not enough, you will chase validation endlessly. But if you believe even softly, even for a second, that you are a divine creation, everything begins to shift. Not because the world changes first, but because you do. And your outer world is only ever a reflection of your inner weather. You have been given this life not to suffer through it, but to awaken within it. You are not here to master the art of pretending. You are here to remember the art of being. Being real, being whole, being love without needing a reason, without seeking permission. Because that is your truest nature. And all the striving, all the proving, all the noise that drowns your stillness, it is only the world's way of keeping you asleep to that truth. But no matter how long you've forgotten, you can remember now, right now, because the divine doesn't measure time. It only measures awareness. You don't need to wait until you've cleaned up your life to wake up. You don't need to wait until all the wounds are gone, or the pain is silenced, or the chaos is resolved. The awakening begins not when you escape the storm, but when you realize you were the calm center of it all along. The power is not outside of you. It never was. You are not missing anything. You are simply misidentifying with what you are not. You are not the voice that says you are unworthy. You are the awareness that hears that voice and knows it's a lie. You are not the fear that rises in the dark. You are the light that sees through it. You are not the past that haunts you. You are the presence that survives, it transforms, it transcends it. Every experience you've endured, no matter how painful, has been the sculptor of your spirit. The heartbreak, the loss, the betrayal, the abandonment, they were not punishments, they were doorways, invitations, moments that cracked the shell of your identity so that the truth beneath it could begin to shine through. You did not come to this earth to collect comfort. You came to remember your power, and power is never born in ease. You are a divine creation, and that means you are not here by accident. You are not some cosmic coincidence. You are here because the source of all life wanted to experience itself as you. There is something that only your soul can give to this world. Something so holy, so needed, that you were summoned into form to bring it. And it isn't something you have to invent. It's something you have to unveil, uncover, return to. You understand how sacred you are? Not in a prideful, egoic sense, not in a way that elevates you above anyone else, but in the quiet, reverent knowing that who you are beneath the scars, the roles, the masks is infinite love made visible. When you begin to see yourself this way, life responds in kind. You no longer chase approval. You no longer tolerate the lies that shame you. You no longer give your energy to people or patterns that ask you to dim your light. Because now you know your light is not negotiable. It is essential. It is eternal. And it is not yours to hide. It is yours to embody. You didn't come here to fit in. You came here to radiate. You didn't come here to be small and agreeable and quiet your truth to keep others comfortable. You came here to be as vast as your soul will allow, to live from your center, and to teach the world through your being what it means to walk as love in form. There is a sacredness to your breath, a wisdom in your heartbeat. Every cell in your body vibrates with the memory of where you came from. You may have forgotten, but your soul has not. It has always known that you are an emanation of something divine, not because you've studied it or earned it or achieved it, but because it is the most natural truth of your existence. You are not broken, you are becoming. The caterpillar is not flawed because it cannot yet fly. It is preparing in stillness, in darkness, in surrender. There are seasons of your life where everything will seem to fall apart, where nothing makes sense, and where your old self begins to dissolve. Do not curse these moments. They are sacred. They are cocoon moments. You are not being buried, you are being reborn. And just as the butterfly must let go of being a caterpillar, you must let go of the false identities that kept you grounded. The beliefs that told you you're too much. The voices that said you're not enough. The masks you wore to belong. You are not here to be anyone else's idea of who you should be. You are here to remember who you already are. You don't need more fixing. You need more feeling. You need more remembering. Not remembering in the mental sense, remembering in the sacred sense. Remembering as in putting yourself back together. Gathering all the pieces you exiled in shame and fear and survival. Calling home the parts of you that were told they were unlovable. Gathering your own soul in your own arms and whispering, even this is holy, because it is. The divine doesn't only live in the polished, the pretty, the perfect. The divine lives in the mess, the cracks, the unraveling. God lives in your rawness. Spirit breathes through your tears. Grace shows up not when you feel strong, but when you've collapsed in surrender and realize you don't need to carry it all alone. That is when the sacred begins to rise. You are not walking through this life without help. There is a presence that walks beside you, within you, through it all. It may not speak in words, but it speaks in knowing. It may not shout, but it hums. That hum is the pulse of your divinity. You can hear it when the mind quiets, when the distractions fall away, when you rest into the stillness of your being. In that stillness, you'll hear the whisper, "You are love. You always have been." No amount of striving can make you more worthy. No amount of guilt can make you more pure. No amount of validation can make you more real. The search must end not in exhaustion, but in recognition. And when you stop running and stand in your own stillness, you'll feel it. The remembrance, the reverence, the return. The soul does not speak in shame. The ego does. The soul does not speak in fear. The ego does. The soul does not say, "Earn your place." It says, "You already belong." You are a divine creation, not because someone told you so, but because you exist. That alone is evidence of your sacredness. Your existence is the fingerprint of God. And the truth is, you've been carrying the light all along. It's just been hidden beneath the dust of forgetting. But even dust cannot diminish the flame. There is nothing ordinary about you, nothing random, nothing replaceable. You are the result of a sacred decision, a whisper from the divine saying, "Let there be this." And so you appeared, clothed in flesh, but made of light. And though the world has tried to convince you that you are just another face in the crowd, just another number in the system, your soul knows better. It always has. You didn't come here to be small. You didn't come here to conform, to apologize for your presence, to shrink your voice, to avoid discomfort. You came here to live with your heart unguarded, to love like it's the only thing that matters because it is. You came here to weep, to laugh, to dance barefoot through the chaos and still call it beautiful. You came here to be fully human, but never forget that you are fully divine. And though you may have wandered into fear, into doubt, into silence so deep it swallowed your voice, you have not been lost. You have only been sleeping. And now the time has come to wake, not in panic, but in awe, to rise, to step into the fullness of who you are with reverence, not to fix, not to strive, not to perform, but to remember. Remember that the stars do not apologize for shining. The ocean does not ask permission to roar. The moon does not dim itself when the clouds pass by. They all live in alignment with their essence, and so must you. Stop dimming your light to make others comfortable in their own forgetting. Stop shrinking to fit into cages you were never meant to enter. Stop measuring your worth with rulers made by people who cannot see your soul. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be true to the one who created you, and that one lives inside you. This is not about arrogance. This is not about superiority. This is about sacred ownership, owning your essence, owning your energy, owning the fact that you are and always have been a divine creation. And when you walk with that knowing, your life changes. You begin to speak differently, choose differently, love differently. Not from ego, but from essence. Not from fear, but from truth. And here's the truth. You were created in the image of love. Pure, infinite, formless love, expressed now through the contours of your smile, the sound of your voice, the compassion in your hands. You are how the divine touches this world. You are how grace walks. You are how healing begins, not just for you, but for those who feel you, witness you, remember who they are because of your presence. So let your life be a mirror that reflects the sacred back into every heart you meet. Let your words be rivers of peace. Let your silence speak of depth and dignity. let your being, just your being, be enough to awaken someone else's truth. Because that's what you are, a divine reminder, a walking prayer, a soul with skin on it. And when you finally stop fighting yourself, when you stop believing the lies the world sold you, you will feel it, that peace that doesn't need conditions, that joy that has no opposite, that love that has no edge. That is your home. And that home has always been within you. You are not here to chase meaning, you are the meaning. You are not a seeker in need of a destination, you are the sought. And every moment that felt empty was not a punishment. It was a space the universe left open so you could fill it with your own light. You were not created to hustle for love or compete for worthiness. That is the conditioning of a world that forgot how to look inward. But you are remembering, and in your remembering, you liberate not only yourself, but others who have been silently waiting for permission to do the same. Because when one soul awakens, it becomes a lighthouse. You begin to see with different eyes. You no longer look for God in the distance. You see God in the pause between words, in the laughter of children, in the wrinkles of the old, in your own breath, in the mirror. And this realization is not an achievement, it is a return to what has always been present beneath the noise. Your value has never come from what you do, it comes from what you are. And what you are is infinite. The ego will always say you are too much or not enough. That is its only vocabulary. But the soul speaks in completeness. The soul does not compare. It does not rush. It does not try to convince. The soul simply is. And in your stillest moments, when you are quiet enough to hear, it sings one song. You are whole. You are loved. You are divine. And oh, how life changes when you believe it. You stop fighting your reflection. You stop begging others to reflect what you refuse to claim within. You stop running toward an image of success and begin walking as success itself, not measured in titles or possessions, but in peace, in presence, in alignment. True success is alignment with your source. And your source is pure love. Not the love that depends on behavior or agreement, but the kind of love that has no opposite, no condition, no scarcity. The kind of love that says, even here, even now, you are sacred. When you align with that, you become unshakable. Not invincible to pain, but deeply rooted in the knowing that pain is not the end of you, that storms do not destroy the sky, and fear does not erase the soul. The tree bends in the wind not because it is weak, but because it is wise. So bend, but do not break. Feel, but do not drown. Cry, but do not forget that your tears are holy. They water the soil of your becoming. There is nothing weak about softness. There is nothing wrong with feeling deeply. In fact, your depth is your power. The world has praised the strong exterior for too long, but it is time to honor the interior world, the world of truth, of spirit, of stillness. That is where the real transformation happens. Not outside, but within. And that is why healing does not begin with revenge or control or validation. Healing begins with remembrance. And remembrance begins with surrender. Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as reunion. Surrender is not the absence of power, it is the presence of wisdom. It is the sacred act of returning what was never yours to carry. It is releasing the illusion of control and stepping into the arms of a presence that has been holding you since before your name was spoken into time. When you surrender, you do not collapse, you expand. You do not lose, you return to yourself, to your center, to the divine rhythm that beats beneath every circumstance, every chapter, every breath. You are not here to force your way through life. You are here to flow not with passivity, but with presence. Flow is the language of the soul. It doesn't demand or dominate. It listens, it aligns, it allows. And in that allowing, it receives. Because when you remember that you are a divine creation, you stop trying to grasp at life and you begin to let it rise through you. This is the great reversal. The more you chase, the more life hides. But the moment you soften, open, allow life floods in, not because you earned it, but because you stopped resisting what already belonged to you. You were never separate. This has always been the illusion that you are separate from God, separate from love, separate from wholeness. But separation is not real. It's just the shadow cast by forgetting. And the light of truth dissolves it in an instant. You don't need to travel the world to find the divine. You don't need to cross oceans, climb mountains, or perform rituals. You only need to turn inward, sit in silence, breathe into your being, and there, in that holy space between the in-breath and the out-breath, you will hear it, the echo of eternity, the remembrance of origin, the truth that has waited patiently beneath every distraction, every role, every mask. You are already home. You've always been. You are the breath of the infinite in temporary form. You are the silence behind the noise, the peace beneath the chaos, the clarity beyond the confusion. You are not what has happened to you. You are what survives it, transforms it, transmutes it. That is your gift, not to escape this human experience, but to fill it with the light of who you really are. The soul is not afraid of this world. Only the ego trembles. Only the ego needs to dominate, to defend, to hide. The soul trusts. The soul flows. The soul blesses everything it touches. And when you live from the soul, not sometimes, not when it's easy, but as a way of being, your life becomes a sermon without words, a prayer in motion, a sanctuary in skin. And others will feel it not because you are trying to teach them, but because your presence remembers them. And in that remembrance, they will remember themselves. You are not here to be a savior. You are here to be a space where others can feel seen, held, loved, simply by witnessing you love yourself. You are the medicine you thought you had to find. You are the answer you searched the world for. You are the presence you begged others to give you. And now you are giving it to yourself. That is power. That is healing. That is divinity realized. And now, beloved soul, pause, breathe. Not just to inhale air, but to receive this truth. You are not who you thought you were. You are not the story. You are not the pain. You are not the roles you've worn like armor. You are not the wounds you've used as identity. You are not the labels, the achievements, the mistakes, or even the personality you've grown so used to defending. You are the presence beneath it all. You are the witness, the timeless stillness, the sacred silence. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the ocean, not the waves. You are the awareness watching the play unfold. And in that awareness, there is no suffering. There is only being. And that being is divine. You do not need to become worthy of love. You are love. You do not need to search for peace. You are peace. You do not need to earn freedom. You are already free, but your belief in the illusion is what binds you. And now you are ready to unbind, to let go of the old identity that was formed in fear, in shame, in comparison, to no longer carry the burden of proving, to no longer apologize for your light, to no longer wait for someone to give you permission to live as who you already are. Because who you are is sacred, and it is time to live like it. Not in arrogance, but in reverence. Not in performance, but in presence. Not in noise, but in still, unwavering truth. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to explain it. You don't even need to shout it from the mountaintop. Your vibration will speak louder than your words ever could. When you walk as a divine creation, when you live with that awareness in your cells, the whole world shifts in your presence. You become a living invitation for others to come home to themselves. You become the mirror in which others can finally see their own holiness. You become the calm in a world obsessed with chaos. You become the light in a room that forgot it was lit from the beginning. And perhaps that's the very reason you were sent here. Not to be anything more than what you are, but to remember what you are and live it. You don't need a new identity. You don't need to escape your life. You don't need to wait for all the pieces to be in place. The miracle isn't waiting out there somewhere. The miracle is you here, now, aware, alive, awakened. You are a divine creation right now, even with your doubts, even with your scars, even with the mess you've walked through and the mistakes you've made and the grief you carry like a second skin, you are still divine, no less sacred, no less whole, no less radiant. You were created by the same source that paints sunsets, stirs oceans, births galaxies, and yet it poured its essence into you not to compare you to the stars, but to remind you that you are one. So return now, not to who you were, but to what has never changed, the eternal, untouchable, unbreakable light that you are. The soul that remembers, the presence that witnesses, the love that holds it all. Let that be your truth now. Let that be your home. Let that be your way of walking in the world. Not as someone chasing the divine, but as someone finally embodying it, because you are not becoming divine. You are and have always been a divine creation. And now you remember